What's going on, fellow engineers? This video, I'm going to do some optimization on the website that I did during Engineers Week. I've noticed like some of the pictures, I know I put them into the website, but did not actually optimize them. I just took them from their original format and said, put it in, and I used some CSS to do the resizing of the image so that it did not take up like the whole screen or something of the nature. But this video, I'm going to actually try to tweak that to get a higher page speed score as well as improve the performance and show you some of the other techniques that I used when I'm building my website. Here we go. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time checking out a video on the Almost Engineer channel, please be sure to consider subscribing by using the subscribe button down below. Each week I create new videos where I discuss technology and how-to projects. Technology videos are on Tuesdays and how-to projects are on Saturdays for hashtag Saturday Project, and Tuesday videos are hashtag Tech Tuesday. So if either of those topics interest you, again, please be sure to subscribe. I've been working on this website, and I've actually, at this point, have deployed the website and is up and running. And so what I'm going to do now is to actually optimize the images. As you see, I have it up, and I'm going to run this particular page, which is the programs page on the site, because I know this particular photo is a high resolution. I believe I have a couple of other photos in here that are also high resolution as well. Not that one, not that one. Well, some of these are as well. So where is, maybe I took it off, maybe it's on another site. I think it's on a page. But we'll stick with this one for now. And so if I right click on this and do inspect on this particular image, as you see, but this one doesn't show the size. Let's open it in a new tab. All right, and so up here in the title, you see that it is 4128 by 2322, and I really want to resize that because when you have these high resolution images on a mobile device, it takes a while for them to load. And to demonstrate that, I have two sites that I have pulled up. We have GTE Metrics and we have the Google Page Speed Insights. I will put links to those down in the description if you're interested in using these two tools. But basically, the purpose of these two tools are to analyze how long it would take your page to load, and it will suggest ways that you can use to implement, or things that you can do to implement to make that page speed faster. So I'm going to go ahead, I've already started the Google one, and I'm going to go ahead and run the GTE Metrics one as well. The GTE Metrics one takes a little bit longer. So for the Google one, it does mobile and desktop. And so for the mobile, I got a 72 as a score, and you have your scale down here. So 72 is in the middle. Ideally, you want to be in the 90 to 100. And for the desktop, I got a 74 for the same page. Again, 90 to 100 is ideal. And so it breaks down what it is looking at. And so you got the first contentful paint. And so that is kind of pretty much how fast does it take, or how long does it take before something starts showing up on the screen. And so for that one, got a green dot, 0.08 seconds. Which is pretty good. The time to interactive is kind of demonstrating like how long before you actually can do stuff on the page. 2.7, which this here is a yellow page speed index, so 1.1 seconds, which is good. Blocking time, so nothing is blocking the page. A lot of the scripts in here, like the JavaScripts that is, are set to be asynchronous, and so therefore, when those scripts are running, they're not blocking the page. The largest contentful paint is 4 seconds, which is alarming because ideally Google has set the standard, or their standard at least, that a page should load should be done loading between 1 and 2 seconds. So 4 seconds is well beyond that. And then the cumulative shift layout, I'm not fully sure what that is, but it's showing as yellow, so that's not a good thing. And so here are the suggestions that it makes. So properly sized images, which I already discussed. And as you see, if the image is properly sized, you have this potential savings here. And the same thing for this other image here. I did not realize that there were two, I guess there are two images on that page. So once those are resized, that should help. So eliminate blocking render resources. So some of these are scripts. They're all minified files, so it's not really much you can do about those. It's still going to complain. Even if you combine all of these into a single file, it may still complain about that. I've had this site uses Bootstrap, and it was still complaining about removing, it may even be here, about removing some stuff in the Bootstrap. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Who does that? So the next one it mentions is serve images in next gen formats. So JPEG, JPEG XR, and WebP offer greater compression, which if you're familiar with images, you're probably already familiar with that. So what I'm gonna do is definitely convert this PNG to a JPEG, and then reduce the size of these two JPEGs to something that is a little bit more realistic for a website and not the original high resolution image that was originally taken. All right, so for this one, it says avoid a doc write. That is in the script that's provided by the mailing list, so I can't really do anything around that one. Serve assets with a static assets with a efficient cache policy. So 8 resources found. So these are pretty much things that are added on. So as you see here, MailChimp, that we have for our mailing list. The CSS and the JS files, I can add a policy for it. It's set for 30 days, so I'm not sure why it flagged that one in particular. The Google Analytics thing, that's set, already has a policy on it, so yeah, not sure about why it's complaining about that one. And then the MailChimp image, again, I really can't do much about that. Especially also these external files, those are beyond my control. I don't know if it can be done. If you know that external files can be done in the caching policy, drop a comment down below. I'm curious to hear if anybody has been able to implement external files in their caching policy, but I don't know if that's possible. And then so it also says avoid enormous network payloads. And so, as you see, majority of these items are MailChimp. I have some icons in here from Font Awesome. Not sure how to really do that to make that more efficient. The Bootstrap file is already minified, so really can't do much about that. The only real thing I know I can do are these 2 images, which are, as you see here, this is actually 2 megabytes. Even though it's showing it in kilobytes, when you actually break it down, it's really megabytes. And the next file will be this one, which is 207 kilobytes. All right, it gives some other recommendations, but these recommendations down here, they don't have a color, and so they're not as critical. So, but you can attempt to implement the information that is mentioned here, even though it's not as critical. And then the past audits, it shows what was done correctly or well on your site. And so, so remove unused CSS. Some of this is, see, here we go. The removing of dead rules from styles. So the Bootstrap, I never touched the Bootstrap CSS file other than to minify it if it's not already minified. But I never mess with that file because when there's a Bootstrap update, you'll want to leverage that CSS that they provide. And so instead of modifying that file directly, I just copy it anytime there's a Bootstrap update that needs to go in. But it mentions some other things here as, you know, recommendations that went well. So all of these are, as you say, past audits. So they get green dots. And so now that we've done the Google page speed, we can go over to the GTE Metrics page speed. And so this gives you a letter grade as well as the percentage. And so it similar to Google Page Speed, it breaks down what was good, what was bad, and areas that you can improve in. And so a lot of these things have 100s. The serve scaled images, so it complained about the two images, what I've already discussed. And so right there, it gives you a 2.6 megabyte or 95% reduction in how long it takes for the page to load. Optimized images, which is pretty much the same thing as the item above. Leverage browser caching. So as you see, it's also complaining about the MailChimp items and the Fun Awesome icons and Google Analytics. So all of these are external content items. I'm not sure, again, not sure if I can leverage caching for those items since they are externally hosted items. All right, the Y slow score. So expires headers. They all have external items. So again, don't know about that. A CDN. A CDN is possible. I would have to look into it, but off the top of my head, this site may or may not benefit from a CDN. It doesn't have a lot of traffic, but if it were to be on a CDN, then this would probably help in that regard. But it gave it an F, so and reduce the number of DNS lookups. So for this, it is some of these items are beyond my control. So like the MailChimp, the Fun Awesome, Google Analytics, you got a jQuery and a Cloudflare, so that's a CDN, and another one for Fun Awesome. And then, of course, the site itself has 11 components. So ideally, I could probably move this a couple of these over to the code repository for this website, so that will reduce the number of DNS lookups that would be necessary. As you see, everything else, there is one item, again, MailChimp, that's not produced, but everything else seemed to be at a 100 for the Y slow score. So this is kind of the basic score, and then this is like the adjusted score. So overall, yeah, there's room for improvement. And here you have the fully loaded time. So it took 3.3 seconds to load the entire page. The entire page is 3.21 megabytes. As you see, is a little bit above the average, with the average there being 3.16. And then the number of requests is 29, whereas the average is 89. So well below that number. And the average fully loaded time is 8.2 seconds, which is a very long time. All right, and then this breaks down what is loaded when. So the initial request goes to the programs, and then this shows you all the other items that are loaded and how long they took to load. So that's very useful. Google Page Speed does not provide this information. And then this gives you some timings. If you want to do video and so forth, you have to create an account. And you can also save for the GTE Metrics, you can also save the history, but you have to log in and so to have that saved. It also provides you an option to do a PDF of the same report data, but in a PDF document. And it gives you a screenshot similar to how Google gives you a screenshot on right here. So Google gives you a screenshot as it loads the page up. So that's how that works. And then you have this also final screenshot here too. All right, so what I'm going to do now is to reduce the size of the images and then run the page speed test again and see what I got. All right, so I have the, if I go in here and open the images, so let's do docs images, and let's see. I think I need to pull the project up in, oh, I never pulled it. Cool. All right, so we're looking for the programs. All right, the image, so I need to open this image, copy, and There we go. All right, so I am using GIMP. As you know, I primarily use Linux for my development, and I use GIMP. I know how to resize images in GIMP, but some of the other fancy features like changing color and stuff like that, I haven't quite mastered yet. But I figured out how to do it in GIMP. This in GIMP. So hey, that's pretty decent. And what I usually do is I go to the page, I see what it is kind of showing that image as right now. Sometimes it'll show actual details of it. It doesn't appear that it does this in Chrome. I may have to switch to Firefox. Yeah, so let me switch to Firefox. Firefox, you can do the view image attribute, and oh, here we go. All right, so paste and go. It says there's two windows. All right, so if I do view image, there we go. So view image info. And so you see it shows here, this is the original dimensions, the 4,128 by 2,322, but it has been scaled to 810 by 456. So usually what I do is I take the largest number, in this case, which would be the width, and scale it down to a number that I would prefer to have at. So I'm just gonna type 800 in here, and because it's already set to maintain that aspect ratio, it will figure out the height for that as well. And so then I hit scale. All right, and so it has resized that image, and then file. I want to overwrite the existing image, and I want to export it still as a JPEG, and 97% quality is pretty decent. And so if I hit export, that is good to go. And then there is, I believe, a couple of other images on this page. Yes. All right, so if I come back to GIMP and do the same thing for those. So that's the first one. I believe it's this one and this one. All right. I guess we can go ahead and convert it. Not sure why it's complaining about that. All right. So again, go to image, scale image, and let's see, what does it have? This one. So right click, view image info, 888 by 500. So I'm gonna still do 800 and it'll still resize. So that's great. Overwrite, export, and then the other image. There we go. All right, so that's 720. Let's see, view image info. Now see, this particular image is not scaled. If it was, it would have scaled over here to the right. I think I still may want to resize this a little bit. And image scale, bring it down. So usually I try to resize the largest of the two numbers. Let's resize that 900 down to, the 960 down to 600 and scale. And then file, save, overwrite, and then export. And I think I did the other image the same way. Overwrite. Yeah, okay. Is that a, wait a minute. Yeah, that's a JPG. All right, cool. So now if I come back to my project in Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to stage all these files, and I did create a issue on GitHub for this. And so let me reference that commit number. Again, kind of doing a couple of things here. So the commit number, the issue number. And so the issue number, as you know, when it comes to project management, you need to have your work associated with a issue, user story, bug, whatever it is that the task that you're working on. Each system has different names. This GitHub uses issues for pretty much everything, even though it may be a enhancement. So just keep that in mind. All right, so for this, the issue number is 28. And so we'll prefix the commit message with 28 and say resized images. And we'll go ahead and do a push. I think I need to do, well, I may need to do a pull. Okay, I guess not. All right, and so wait on that to deploy. Again, having GitHub Actions do the building of the static files for this particular website, as well as the deployment of that website. All right, and all the checks have passed, so all the automated deployment has completed successfully. That being said, we can come back over to our Google Page Speed Insights. And so remember, for mobile, you got 72. For desktop, we got 74. So we're going to run the analysis again. And let's see what we get on Google. All right, and so now we have an 80 for the mobile, and we have a 95 for the desktop. So significant improvement. This block here is mostly green. It's got some yellow still in here, but the improvement is way significant what it was, because both numbers were in the 70s. This one is clearly in the green, and the mobile is higher than what it was. It's not in the green, but it is higher than what it was. And so to do more analysis, so blocking render resources. So we have some CSS files. It looks like it's the minified version of those files that it doesn't like for whatever reasons. These two files, I probably could combine the carousel and the NSBMP file, CSS file, because those are specific to certain things. Actually, the carousel is not even used on the programs page. It's only used on the home page. So I probably could add a condition in here that will allow that if that particular, set something up so that if that particular page is not using a certain set of files or something like that nature, then it takes it out of the page heading. That way you don't have to make a call to something that you're not even going to use a particular page. And so that would help at least this particular item. This one can't go away because I have all of my custom CSS into this one. All right, so we're still going to complain about the next gen formats because I haven't figured out how to do it in GIMP to put it in one of these other formats. I do have on my Windows computer, I do have a program called Image Analyzer that I know can do the JPEG 2000 format. So I may run these images through that piece of software and then commit them back up to see if I can get even more potential savings and reduce the resource size. Same thing for the images, properly sized images. So this images I think are relatively close. They may be a little bit bigger. I think I may have done it a little bit bigger, but that's that. And remove unused JavaScript. This is the MailChimp script that we have, so that's something completely different. Reduce the impact of the third-party code. So that's MailChimp. Might have to see if we can make that call asynchronously instead of making it synchronous, and that may help the blocking of threads here. Document write, again, that's something in the third-party item. And then the rest of these are still static assets from an external source, so I really can't do much about those. All right, so that's how you improve the page speed from the Google perspective. As you see, it shows you other ways that it can be done. So now I'm going to rerun the GTE Metrics test. So as you see here, it does a little. I think the GTE Metrics one does a little bit more of analysis than the page speed does. It definitely gives you more data than just the Google page speed. All right, so previously we had a page speed score of an F, and I believe this was a 27%. and the Y slow score was still a C, so this did not move as much as the page speed score it is. So we literally went from failing to passing with the page speed score. And to break it down, so we have the optimized images, and it's still complaining about some of these external resources. This PNG does need to be updated to a JPEG, so I'll do that off camera. I'm more so doing the images on the page so for you to get an idea of how this could be done. One of the images I did update is still saying that it doesn't have that lossless compression. And so the GTE Metrics will actually provide you with an optimized image. And I've actually taken this optimized image before and used it, and it seemed to improve better on both GTE Metrics and the Google Page Score. So I'll probably go ahead and do that here just to see. And for this one though, I actually wanted to, I see the link to the optimized version is actually spitting out a PNG, but I actually wanted to spit out a JPEG. So I'm gonna have to convert that to a JPEG on the desktop and then relink it, and hopefully it'll give me an optimized image of that JPEG at that point. But as you see, the rest of the items are throwing 98s, 99s, and 100s. So again, the page speed score has significantly improved. The Y slow score, while it's not as much, let's see, that's not what I meant. Not as much, because it still says there are other things that can be improved upon. So the CDN and the expires headers on the content, and reduce the number of DNS lookups, that didn't change. So like I say, I can combine some of those files together to try to get a fewer DNS lookups that have to be. Overall, the page speed performance has increased. And as you see, I believe it before it was 3.3 seconds for the fully loaded time. Now it is 2.1 seconds. And also the page size has come down from about 2.6 megabytes to 778 kilobytes. So that is significantly better as well. So that wraps things up for this video. Hopefully you have learned how to improve the speed of the page on your website. In short, it pretty much means optimizing your images to reasonable sizes. So, if you have an image that is 3,000 pixels by 2,000 pixels, but on screen it's probably only showing like a medium-sized image, so maybe 500 pixels by 400 pixels, resize that image. That will help in the page speed. If you can reduce the number of CSS files and JavaScript files that you're using, by all means do so. It helps if I know a lot of times when you're building a website, it's easy to kind of just create a bunch of small files, but sometimes you need to take all of those small files and just make one large file that contains everything. And that will make the number of calls that have to be done reduce, thus reducing the load time, or increasing the page, the time, reducing the time that the page takes to load by making it more efficient. Because if you have 3 CSS files and you can combine those 3 CSS files into one, then instead of making 3 separate calls, the browser that is having to make 3 separate calls, it can make one call and get everything that it needs. If you have any questions about page speed, how to improve performance, drop those down below. I read the comments, I read the comments, I read the comments, and I do respond. If you don't want to drop your comment down below, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram and Twitter at almostengr. That's over there. And also check out my website, thealmostengineer.com. This video has educated you on anything new, please give it a thumbs up, and also be sure to subscribe. Till next time, peace out.